This episode of Rock Solid Productions is being brought to you by Live Action Games. Live Action Games in Champaign, Illinois, your home for retro video games from the Atari 2600 all the way forward to the Nintendo Switch. Make sure that you give them a follow and like on Facebook at the URL below. Welcome to Rock Solid Productions, where in this episode we are going to be reviewing the Classic 2 HD from Old Skool. Hello everyone, Gary here with Rock Solid Productions, and thanks to our local retro game store, Live Action Games, we are here to test out the Old Skool Classic 2 HD. And what's cool about this system is it allows you to play NES and Super NES games on your modern day TV over HDMI. It does have a 720 output on here, so it will connect via HDMI cable to your modern flat panel TV like what we have playing here in the background. And actually we have Super Mario RPG, the Super Famicom version, playing here on the Classic 2, feeding to our TV. So yes, it will play Super Mario RPG. So I know that's one of the questions a lot of people ask about these clone systems. So out of the box, the Classic 2 can be connected again via HDMI, or it does also include AV cables if you do have a CRT or other television that you do want to connect it up to. And it does also include two controllers, but they're not quite what you would expect. One is a dogbone style NES controller, and the other is a classic Super NES style controller. Now on the front of the system here, it does have both Super NES and NES connectors for your controllers, so you can use aftermarket controllers with the system. It's pretty nice. Now if you do want to learn more about the ins and outs that the Classic 2 actually comes with, I highly recommend you check out our unboxing video right up there at the little widget, where you can see everything that it comes with, the power output that you need, so on and so forth. Now it does come out of the box completely ready for you to play. It does utilize a micro USB port for power, and if you've seen our video talking about how to clean up your wiring and whether or not that little 4-outlet brick, USB brick that I have, if that would power it, it does not. The Classic 2 does actually need a decent amount of current, and that did not have enough power to power this system here. So I've got a bunch of different games here that we're going to try out. We're going to try out NES, Super NES, Famicom, Super Famicom games. We're even going to try the Super Game Boy games out as well. Now I do also have, well, I don't own an EverDrive and won't be testing one here, so unfortunately I don't know if this will work with an EverDrive. I do have a couple multi-carts here from Retrobit. This is the Data East collection for the NES, and this is the Joe and Mac collection for the Super NES, and we're going to check and see if these play on this system. Above and beyond that, it's time to do some gameplay. So what we're going to do too is, like I mentioned, the system does come with two controllers, one for Super NES, one for NES. I am going to be using the regular NES controller with the NES games. That way we get a fair evaluation of the stock controller that it comes with. And then we are going to use the Super NES games, obviously, with the Super NES controller with Super NES games. So let's get playing. Since we had it up on the screen, I figured it would make sense to start with Super Mario RPG. Now, one thing of note is this is the Super Famicom version, so it is in Japanese, and I am using the classic controller on here. And hitting start. And I'm just going to throw in 3 random characters here. And I believe this is end, and I would be right. Now, I am not super familiar with Super Mario RPG myself, not an RPG fan, so I'll have to leave it to you guys to look at this and judge the audio and the video quality on here. I know, at least playing around with it a little bit on the NES or Super NES Classic Edition, this looks pretty close. On my TV, it's actually looking just a little bit blurry, but not too terrible. I do wish that there was a way that I could fast forward past these cinematics. Actually, I had to change some settings on the TV here. Little tip, if you're ever trying to record footage from the TV, from like a camera or something like that, turn down the brightness and the contrast. It'll actually make it pop a lot easier or a lot better on your screen. And I'm going to go just into one of the boss battles here, or not boss battles, but one of the enemy battles here. I'll tell you that the depth on the buttons feels kind of shallow, and by that I mean like the total stroke of the travel as it goes up and down through the controller itself, especially on the Y button, feels a little bit on the shallow side. Goodness, getting beat up by all of these guys right now. But here you get a really good, kind of idea of the combat system and everything, and how it looks to see the backside of Mario. It's one of the reasons I don't like RPGs. I just don't like okay, here's my character and I can't do anything with it. But Super Mario RPG, known for being kind of a challenge on certain clone systems due to the extra chipset that it has in there, and it is playing here just fine. And there, the last of the Koopa guards are defeated. So there you can kind of see the Mode 7 with the chandelier up top. I think it's weird that you have a Mario game that you're fighting Bowser this early on. And again, this is the Japanese version, so that's why you're seeing everything in Japanese. I mean, overall, this looks pretty good, so we're going to stop Mario RPG here, and we're going to throw in possibly one of my favorite games of all time. No, it's not Earthworm Jim, although I should throw that in here, shouldn't I? No, Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. Turtles in Time booted right up, didn't have to mess with the controller at all, or not the controller, but the cartridge in the system, which I have had to do with Super Mario RPG. Really was kind of finicky on how that it went in there. Here I'm at the Big Apple at 3 a.m. There you got a good look at me flinging an enemy towards the screen. There's another one. It's interesting. I read somewhere that that's only 3 frames of animation. It's just amazing what they were able to do with the Super NES. Back with the scaling and just the different effects for a machine that really, at the end of the day, was not all that powerful. And while that may be the case, the Classic 2 HD is doing a decent job. The characters look decent. Donatello looks maybe a little bit on the blurry side. I'm not feeling any lag, latency, delay from button presses. I mean, he's kicking some shell here, and it's looking decent. I think is, like I say, it doesn't look quite as sharp as some of the other 16-bit clone systems that I've used. Make sure if you want a comparison that you check out some of those other system reviews that I have here on the channel. Oh, balls. See what I did there? Well, now that Donatello died, you can kind of see how this looks for Turtles in Time. Let's go from here. Let's go to another Super Famicom game, and let's go to Yoshi's Island. So here's Yoshi's Island, and I have to admit, I hadn't played this game a whole lot until the Super NES Classic came out. I actually got this in the same purchase that I bought Super Mario RPG off of eBay. Got them both for about 20 bucks. Let's go to World 1-1, just starting things off. I have to admit, this is just an amazing game. I wish I would have picked it up back in the day. I may actually still wind up picking up a copy, the Super NES copy, just because it's really, really a cute game. I really always kind of liked Yoshi's Woolly World. I thought that was a great game. And I can definitely see how this takes off on that kind of thought, feeling, design. Or not takes off on it, but how it inspired that game. But it is playing this game without really any problem whatsoever. And this, much like Super Mario RPG, does have that extra chip in the system, which can, or in the game, which can cause some issues. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's... Ooh! Oh no, I missed... Mario fell off. That's one of the things people complain about this game. Oof. Is the fact that crying Mario is quite annoying, and I have to agree with that in any language. So Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World 2 is working like a champ. Really a pretty game. I mean, I did not expect this out of a game like this. I mean, I had actually kind of assumed incorrectly over the years that this was kind of a, a really younger kids game, and it's really, really wonderful. Pushing a rock, pushing a rock, pushing a rock, pushing a rock. So yeah, Yoshi's Island also works, another game that has that special chipset on it. So it's great that the Classic 2 HD does play the Super Famicom games, specifically the Mario RPG and Yoshi's Island, especially that those have those extra chipsets in there that can kind of cause an issue, and that Turtles in Time played as well. But what about multi-carts? And we've got the Retrobit Data East Joe and Mac Ultimate Caveman Collection here. And super fun games, awesome games. Let's see, I'm able to navigate the menu just fine. And there are 3 different games on this cartridge. So we'll go into the original Joe and Mac. Go to the 1-player game. And really an underrated platformer over the years. Very cartoony type, graphics. Well, it would help if I didn't suck. Need to ride the pterodactyls or the pterodons. There we go. Oh no, I lost the extra weapon there. Well, that sucked. But this dude here has got one. So basically what you can do is you can upgrade your weapon. There's boomerangs in here. You can get fireballs. These are just bones at this point. This is the first upgrade that you can get. Oh! Actually, no, it's the second upgrade. The boomerang is generally the first one that you get, and that's the one that I missed. So, where are you taking me, dude? Oh, take me to a place where I can get more life. I like that. It has been far too long since I've played this game. There's a extra life. Now, the one thing I don't like about this game, and this is the game itself, is you have to press up and jump to jump higher, which is kind of dumb. Not a fan of it myself. Got a key there at the end. And this is the Snorosaurus, the first level bad dude. Bad Dude's published by Data East as well. Also available, actually we're going to show you Bad Dudes a little bit later. Now I am also using this in the 4x3 mode. There is a 4x3 or 16:9 switch on the back of the system itself. So you can fine tune the display type to how you prefer it. I know some people don't. Oh, ooh, I thought I was going to get snorted there. So you can kind of fine tune the graphic display to how you want to see it. So if some people want to wrongly play these games in 16:9, you can do that. Otherwise, you can play in 4:3 too. And with that, I believe we have beaten the Snorosaurus, which means I should be getting a kiss on the cheek from a scantily clad blonde. And there she is. Joe and Mac, the multi-cart works well. So that kind of concludes what I wanted to look at here on the Super NES itself. But we're not done with the Super NES functionality because we do have the Super Game Boy, and I want to see how that works too. So we're going to plug that in and see how that works. One of my favorite Game Boy games of all time has always been F1 Race, and let's see how it works here. We're going to go to New Game, we're going to go to Australia, and we're going to use this one. Now technically, because this is the Super Game Boy, I could use the NES controller, I would think. Sound looks accurate. Now the one thing, or sound looks accurate, sounds pretty accurate. Now one thing I am noticing on screen here is that it looks more purple than, I thought the Super Game Boy had more of a green look to it than this, but I haven't played around with it a whole lot, and I think there's actually a way that you can change the palette, or there we go. So there's palette. Let's go to palette A, no, B, it's closer, C, D, E, F, G. H is actually what I pretty much remember. Oop. I unpaused the game, but I didn't change out of palette mode to controller mode, so that was bad on me, and I crashed again. Oh, I'm doing terribly on this. So F1 Race working decently. I'm just driving terribly. So we're going to pop out F1 Race, and actually we are going to try Donkey Kong Land, because this is one of the Super Game Boy enhanced games, so it should play in color. Let's check it out. Donkey Kong Land fired up, and it automatically detected that it was in the Super Game Boy. I didn't have to change the palette at all there, at least on the splash screen. Let's see here if it gives me any options. Kind of like A. Let's see how it looks on the screen. I mean, not in color, but kind of better than just your normal. Oh, black and white. I need to focus. I'm terrible at this game. So I'm going to pause it here. Let's go back into the color palette mode. Unless, what does this one do? Oh, it puts it in that kind of setup. It changes the border. All right, that makes sense. So we're going to go back to the Game Boy outline there. Let's change the palette. And I don't feel like going through and manually changing what these are. Yeah, we'll use A1. It's kind of sort of better. As I just about die with the snake. Oh, that's how you get him. And I think I don't know how you change from Donkey to Diddy. But it will play Super Game Boy games, as you can see here. I'm terrible at this game. Part of it is just not knowing the controls. So that is Donkey Kong Land, and that is the Super NES side of it, which seems pretty solid. Now we're going to shift gears and shift the switch, no pun intended here, and we're going to check out the NES side of this console. So here we have one of the first games I wanted to test is Super Mario Brothers, because if you've seen some of the 8-bit console clone system reviews that I've done in the past, the coins, very few, if any, have gotten the coins right. And I think part of the problem is they actually use a processor that speeds up the clock speed a little bit, so it pitches everything up slightly. I am using the Classic 2 NES style controller, and one of the things hopefully you can hear this. There's a lot of rattle to this controller. I have to admit, I've never actually played with the dogbone controller before. I've always used the original NES, the square or the rectangular. I guess they would be rectangle. Anyways, doesn't feel as significant as the Super NES controller did. Let's see how it plays and how it sounds. Nope, audio's off. Oh, it kills me. The audio is off already. Yeah, everything, just like the other NES clones, is pitched high. I would put this on par, actually, with the Retron HD as far as the audio quality. So kind of disappointing to hear that once again, the NES side of things, just not audio-wise where it needs to be. If you take a look again at any of the 8-bit shootouts that we've done here on the channel, it's right there with what those systems do. Yeah, that's disappointing. So Super Mario Brothers plays, again, it's pitched high, just like pretty much all the other 8-bit NES clone systems. Next up, we're going to try out Dracula's Curse, Castlevania 3. Dracula 3, another game. Castlevania 3, another game that can cause issues with clone systems. Loaded up okay there, although it was kind of weird the way it was flickering the border around the castle. Go back and check that out. Here you see the white border. It was kind of flickering oddly. So we're going to go to the opening. And the controller feels okay. It's not great, but it's okay. Balance-wise, as far as the shape, the ergonomics is great. Just not a huge fan on the D-pad or the buttons. Between the two of them, the Super NES controller definitely felt better. I hope that's showing up. There's kind of a line or weird artifacting that's going on here when I whip. When I jump and whip. See it there? Hopefully it showed up. So that's a bit off. This, I mean, it just looks really similar to me to the Retron 1 HD. The color palette does. The, oh, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to show you guys the money bag to see how that looked. I'd say performance-wise, this really is darn near identical to the Retron 1 HD. So here, watch the money bag. Kind of has that purplish pink hue, just like that does. I wouldn't be surprised if this uses very similar internals to what that system did. There, I had some weird look when I jump. Again, I'm hoping that that's showing up. That's a little disconcerting. This is an amazing platformer. If you have a chance to pick up a copy, I highly recommend it. They're kind of pricey, but not too bad. I want to say I paid about $25, $30 for my copy that I have here. And I really wish I played it more. Wow, look at that glitch as I was coming up the stairs. That's just not good. All right, so there we have Castlevania 3. It works okay, but definitely had some glitches in it. And the color palette seems off, very similar to the Retron 1 HD. So next we're going to throw in the Data East Collection Multicart and see how it handles these games. So here we have the Data East All-Star Collection from Retrobit, and it has 5 different games on there. Ring King, Bad Dude, Side Pocket, Burger Time, and Buggy Popper. I can navigate through the menu just fine. Let's go to Bad Dudes. I've actually played this recently on the Super Retrocade from Retrobit. So interesting to see how it'll play on a cartridge versus emulated on that system. Again, looks just a little blurry. It's not as sharp as I would like. So the interesting on this versus the last time I played it on the Super Retrocade, that actually is a 4-button controller, where this is a true 2-button controller. So a little bit more of a pure NES style play experience. Graphically looks okay. I mean, it doesn't look a whole lot different. I'd have to play back to back to see it on the Super Retrocade, but looks pretty similar. So it can play Bad Dudes no problem. Let's go back to the main menu. Let's try a different game. Let's try Ring King. I remember playing that. I rented this quite a bit. So, oh, that's right. I forgot that you could actually go ahead and kind of change how you have your attributes. It's been far too long since I've played this. I do remember this game, though. These 80, or actually these are more 70s style throws. I think this came out after Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, because one of the things on it was the fact that you could actually move around the ring, where in Punch-Out you really can't. I'm actually not doing too terribly bad at this game. That's how Ring King looks. Let's go back to the main menu here again. Let's do Burger Time. That is an arcade classic. I mean, this looks pretty accurate to the NES version as I remember it, but it's been a while since I played the NES version. I guess I was all out of salt, so I used up my salt. I was looking for my lost shaker of salt. I'm old, sorry guys. Alright, so plays multi-carts without any problem. Now what I want to do is I want to take my Famicom to NES adapter, and I'm going to hook in one of my favorite Famicom games. This is YY World 2, which, if not for John Riggs and Metal Jesus Rocks, I would not know about this game. It is awesome, and it's actually just going up in price because I think more and more people are collecting it now. And if you are looking for another point of view on the Classic 2, make sure you check out John Riggs' channel, because he has also done a review on this with some really good insight. A little bit different than what I've done here, but John has always got great information. So we are going to throw YY World in and see how this plays. YY World fired right up. Actually, it fired up fairly quickly. This is one of those I really wish that would have come to the States, or someone would have done a translation of, because this is an awesome, awesome game. Great characters, great level designs. There's so many different games that this borrows from, and I just wish I knew more about it. And here's one of the first power-ups that we can get. Good deal there. Yeah, just a super fun game. Oh, that's what it is. I can double jump with this guy. Those kind of frogs remind me of something out of Mega Man. And this is the one that I don't understand, is what is the baby from? But this, YY World 2 works as, it has on other systems that I've tried out. Like, I wish I knew what all these power-ups did and everything. It's just one of those games that I'll never really figure out fully. Like, I think this is a version of one of the Belmonts. Look at the upper left-hand corner real quick. You kind of see that artifacting that's showing up. That's weird how that happened. Here it also looks like it's, taking a little bit of time to draw the next part of the screen that is going to load up as it's, going to take you to the next frame and everything. Amazing soundtrack too for a Famicom or an NES game, really. I mean, it's just really have always enjoyed this game. Like, I think that just made me invincible, but I'm not quite sure. I mean, it's just neat too how you can change characters in the middle of a level depending on what abilities you need. So yeah, it will play Famicom games, it plays NES games, Super NES games. Next to the Retron 5, the Classic 2 HD was really my first experience with a multi-platform clone system, and it does an okay job. I did have some issues getting it to always recognize when I plugged in like Super Mario RPG, didn't always play, and even the Joe and Mac Multicart did not always read right away when I put it in. Sometimes I had to insert and remove the cartridge to see if it would do anything. The other thing I find a little bit odd is there is a small light right here on the console itself. And regardless if it's powered on or not, it kind of has an orangish glow to it to kind of tell you that it's got power going through it. Picture seemed pretty decent, a little blurry in spots, but not terrible. Not any worse than any other clone system, I would say. Audio seemed, overall pretty decent too, except for where I noted, any issues in the gameplay itself. Again, I do have to thank Live Action Games in Champaign, Illinois for providing the system here for review. Without them, this review simply would not have happened. So thank you guys. This system is actually going back to them. So if you want to actually own a kind of cool piece of history, you can actually purchase this system from Live Action Games, and you can actually get a Rock Solid Productions t-shirt when you buy this system. Make sure you check with them on Facebook whether or not they still have it in stock, and you can go ahead and get it for yourself and take it home. Overall, for 70 bucks, it's not a bad value. It does, it plays pretty much everything that I threw at it. I do wish that it would have come with 2 Super NES style controllers and would have omitted the NES controller, just because with the Super NES controllers you can play everything, and you can play 2 players right out of the box. Now, for me, I generally don't play these retro games with anyone else. I'm playing on my own, so it's not a huge deal, and that it is nice to have a dedicated NES and Super NES controller, but it would have been nice to have 2 of the Super NES controllers to be able to play 2 player right away. Overall, not a bad system whatsoever. I'm still having, if you saw my unboxing, the flap on the Super NES side still does stick a little bit. I have not been able to free that up, and I have found too that depending on how you insert the Super NES cartridges, you need to make sure it's straight up and down and not angled backwards or forwards. That has affected how it has read the cartridges too. Unlike the Retron 5 that I mentioned earlier, this does play right off the hardware. It's hardware emulation, not software emulation. So it is playing right off of the stock cartridges. It does not dump the ROM. The multi-carts worked well. The standard carts work well. Overall, a very, very good system. But these are just my opinions. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. You can also email me at rocksolidmail@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter too, at rocksolidstudios. If you have any other questions too, you can also visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/rocksolidproductions, and I'd be more than happy to discuss the Classic 2 HD from Old Skool, any old type consoles, any reproduction consoles, reproduction cartridges, whatever you may want to talk about. Go ahead and hit me up there too. Also, make sure that you stay subscribed to the channel. That way you are kept up to date with every new piece of content that we have out. I know a lot of people have been interested in this particular review. If you're subscribed, you got that notification when this review went live. So this has been the Classic 2 from Old Skool. Again, thanks to Live Action Games in Champaign, Illinois for making this happen. And if you do want to see us do more retro style consoles like this, you can always help the future of Rock Solid Productions by donating to our Patreon page, patreon.com/rocksolid, or you can donate directly through our PayPal account linked down below in the more info section. So decent system, not without its flaws, but it does a pretty good job. So thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.